Blacks in Antiquity. Frank M. Snowden Jr. Looks interesting. Looks interesting. Here we go again. All praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh Shai. This your brother Motc. I acquire first name. IQ is all the same. Messengers of the Covenant Library Chronicles is back again with another good one. Let's have a look at this book here. Blacks in Antiquity by Frank M. Snowden Jr. Again. Blacks in Antiquity, Ethiopians in the Greco-Roman Experience. Again, for you brothers that's teaching out there, for you sisters that's inquisitive and want to know more about your history, want to know about the Dark Ages, want to know something about the Gentiles and Israel and Hellenization, so forth and so on. A good book like this will help you out, okay? This is published by the Belknap Press of Harvard University Press, Cambridge, Massachusetts, and London, England. So Harvard in cahoots with Cambridge, two well-known, well-established foundations of academia, helped publish this book. So it's pretty valid, needless to say. Let's look at the preface real quick here. Page 7. It says, following the practice of the Greeks and Romans, I have applied the word Ethiopian to several dark and black-skinned Africans whom the Greeks and Romans designated as Ethiopians. So, key point here, when you're reading various different historical references and books, they may refer to people as Ethiopians, but that was a generalized term that they used for all black people, okay? So, according to Zondervan, we know Ham, the definition of Ham, help us define that all so-called blacks are not Africans. When you read in that Zondervan dictionary, it tells you that Ham, the youngest son of Noah, the progenitor of the dark-skinned races, but not the Negroes, but the Libyans, the Canaanites, the Egyptians, so forth and so on, right? So when you're reading about certain books of academia, Esau would generally, utilizing the mentality of the Greeks and Romans, classified everybody as Ethiopians. So Ethiops meaning dark skin or meaning dark. That's what it was. Didn't mean that they were quote unquote legitimate or real Ethiopians. Continuing on, it says the classic evidence relating to physical characteristics, geographical location, and tribal identification demonstrates that the Greeks and Romans classified as Ethiopians several types of dark and black peoples inhabiting different parts of Africa. So several types, including the Israelites. However, classified by modern scholars to Greeks and Romans, these people were all Ethiopians. A very large portion of these Ethiopians comprised peoples considered by anthropologists today as Negroes. Let me read that again. A very large portion of these Ethiopians comprise peoples considered by anthropologists today as Negroes. In fact, the Negro type, both in classical art and literature, was in a sense the most frequent example of the Ethiopian in Greco-Roman usage. Let's continue on. Let's see here. No, I don't want that. Let's look over here. Let's look at page 2. It says, although we know from art Ethiopians who might well be described as Ethiops Capillati, or long-haired scholars who should have looked to art or anthropology for assistance, when you look into archaeology, artwork and anthropology are two of the most credible sources as far as identifications of people. Stonework, carved images, artwork, pottery, things of that nature. The writings will come second. Okay. So they're saying, look into anthropology for assistance, have excociated fanciful explanations of this phrase, or to say that one should not expect to find Negroes in Carthage because the races of the northern Africa were totally distinct from Negroes of Central Africa, ignores the literary and archaeological evidence which demonstrates clearly that Negro types lived not only in sub-Egyptian Africa, but also in various other parts of the Greco-Roman world. Further proving about the scattering, he was utilizing this information to disprove anyone saying that Carthage was not inhabited by Negroes. You know Hannibal, remember him on the elephant? The Second Punic War, conquering the Romans? Right. So he's validating the point. You know, that was a Phoenician founded city, Carthage. Okay. A Shemitic people. Let's look down here. It says the skin of the Ethiopians was black. In fact, blacker, it was noted that than any other people. Indians were dark or black, but not all of them to the same extent as Ethiopians. Herodotus mentions some Indians who resembled the Ethiopians in color. He's talking about the East Indians, like Elam. Okay, not the Native Americans, even though many of the Native Americans were dark as well. The Indians whom Alexander visited were said to be blacker than the rest of mankind, with the exception of the Ethiopians. Let's look over here. This is a good part right here, too. Page 3. The most common Greek words applied to the Ethiopians' color were, I can't read the Greek. So it says in the compounds with another Greek word, and blah, 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 also found it. In Latin, the adjective most frequently used for this purpose was nigger. Not Niger, nigger, right? Where do we read that at? Acts 13:1. And you can reference that, okay? So that was the Latin, right? It says used also were ater, aquilus, exhaustus, fuscus, Shalakia, and perocatus, and nocticolor. So when you're reading, I highlighted this part because when you're reading in different sources in different languages, these were all different terms that were being used to explain a person being dark, right? So it's letting you know, Niger, that meant black, okay, or nigger, meaning black, right, in the Latin. And it's saying adder, if you were reading anything that talked about an adder colored person or adder. Aquilus, wasn't that one of the names of the apostles, Priscilla and Aquila? Well, they weren't apostles, but they taught Apollos, Exustus, Pertussis, Fuscus, Percotus, Nocticolor, night-colored, also appeared as equivalents of the various adjectives used to describe the Ethiopians' color. So reading, you might find different ancient writings that utilize these terms, and you may not even know they're talking about so-called black people. Dropping down, it says, though describing the Ethiopians as black or dark, the ancients recognized that these peoples differed in pigmentation and took considerable pains to record the observation of differences. Even Philostratus himself described Memnon as not really black because the pure black of his skin showed a trace of ruddiness. Oh, let's look down here. Negroes of a red copper-colored complexion are known among African tribes. So what do we see that? Ruddy. There's the reason why David was called ruddy and not red, because that's an argument that the Christians use. That's an argument that those who were unlearned and unstudied, when you're looking at the color of Esau, and then they try to say, well, if Esau was red, well, so was David. They didn't say David was red. It said David was ruddy. So this is a reference that also lets you know that dark-skinned people can have a ruddy complexion to them, okay? So ruddy meaning radiant, beautiful, it shows for the blood activation showing forth through the skin, in colloquial terms and today's terms, they talk about someone being a, quote, red bone. You understand? So that's what it's talking about. And the historians acknowledge that. It's the dumbed down, ignorant, whitewashed Christians who don't want to acknowledge the fact that David actually could have been a so-called black man. Let's look here. This is on page 7. Frequent references to color indicate that the word Ethiopian designated persons of having varying degrees of blackness. Furthermore, the association of various combinations of other physical characteristics with the Ethiopian suggests that the Greeks and Romans were describing at least two types of people whom anthropologists today will classify as subtypes of Negroid race. So this is another reference that lets it be known that all black people ain't the same. Just because we're dark doesn't mean we're all the same. Okay? So we see here, Ethiopians, it says that the Romans were describing at least two types of people whom anthropologists today will classify as subtypes of the Negro race. So, I let you know, dark-skinned Jews being amongst the so-called whites, being amongst the so-called Africans, the Romans and the Greeks knew about that, and they had classifications. Let's see here. This is just some more information regarding See here where it said names of Ethiopians in the Greco-Roman world. See Ethiops or Ethiops, the most common generic word denoting a Negroid type. Okay. So when you're reading about Ethiopians, that's what it's talking about. They just use that as a generic term for someone who was black. Let's see here. You know what? I'm gonna get this got a lot of gems in it, man. I want to get to some artwork. Let's get to some artwork. Okay, look at this. A Negro in Amazon depicted in the 5th century BC, the Albastron. Okay, that's why I said in the artwork is where you're gonna find a lot of the information. 5th century BC. It's in the 500s. Okay. Warrior of an interior of red-figured Kylix from Poggio Somavilla, circa 520 to 500 BC. This is all Greek art. Detail of heads of Memnon and Negroes from black-figured neck, amphora, circa 530 BC. Look at the king to the hair. Look at the dark skin. This is on Greek pottery where they're showing Negroes playing a prominent role in the 5th century. Look at him. Detail of one of Memnon's Negro companions from a black-figured neck amphora, 540 to 530 BC. Soldiers coming to the assistance of King Busiris, seen from the Keratean Hydria, circa 530 BC. So if Negroes, if Jakes didn't play a prominent role in the 5th century under Greek rule, you know, this is during the time of Hellenization, okay, or pre-Hellenization, I should say. But at the same time, showing our people serving as soldiers in the Greek army, and us actually being the first Greeks. But that's a whole nother story. Dark-skinned people being the first Greeks. Let me get a couple more. Let's see. Look at this brother. Bronze statue of a boy. Hellenistic. Hair and long spiral curls. Close to the head, very broad nose, rather thick lips. GMA Richter, Handbook of the Greek Collection, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, Cambridge, Mass., 1953, 125, plate 104F. This is a Hellenized black man during the time of the Greeks. Let's see. Well, let's talk about coinage, right? Look at the coinage. Bronze coinage from central Italy depicting some of Hannibal's mahouts. Profile hair, frizzly, broad neck, broad nose, thick, curvated lips. C.T. Seltman, Greek coins, a history of metallic currency and coinage down to the fall of the Hellenistic kingdoms. So as we made mention earlier, Hannibal, being from Carthage, had his own coinage, right? They don't want to show our people this in history class, you know. They don't want to show this type of stuff. You know, this is just light stuff, man, that we want to, you know, highlight and show. Look at this. Etruscan vase in the form of a Negro's head, 4th century BC. The Etruscans were the Greeks. So again, like I said, this will lead you down a whole nother path about the original Greeks. You know, Esau stole everything, man. Let's not get it twisted. Let's not get it twisted. All right. A Negro and a crocodile in southern Italy. See that? Here's another one. Plastic Etruscan vase in the form of a Negro head, second half of the 4th century BC. Why would they have vases of Negro heads in the Etruscan era of the Greeks? The Jakes didn't have a prominent role in these time periods. Let's get that straight. Front profile views of a vase in the form of a Negro's head from Veluzzi, 4th century BC. Right? I mean, there's tons of information in here. Let me get over here. I'm gonna show you a couple more before I close out. Look at the stone bust of this brother right here. Small bronze bust of a Negro Roman. Hello? This guy would be considered a Roman. No different from Tyrone, who's from, Stone Mountain, Georgia, who calls himself an American. Dig what I'm saying? So small bronze bust of a Negro Roman, hair in form of thick mass of short curls, broad nose, thick lips, expression of art in a Roman commercial city. 165, 167. 199 suggests that the bust was made at least in Italy, if not in Rome itself. Right? So when they acknowledge that Paul being a Roman citizen, is it that far-fetched to see that Paul actually could have been a Negro and his artwork to show and prove that he was? Not in this particular book, but I have some. Look at this, a bronze statue of a boy, Hellenistic, hair and long spiral curls close to his head, very broad nose, rather thick lips. Always looking at the nose, the lips, the texture of the hair, right? What else do we got up in here? I got a couple more. Now, here's another one. Well, we're talking about sports, right? Look at this brother, a bronze jockey. Hellenistic, hair curly resembling that of several other Negroid figures. This is all Roman art that they're not showing the world. Right? It says 1st century BC and considers the figure to be Negro. 1st century, that's during the time of Yahushua. So we see that there was blacks in Rome, Hellenized, during the time of Yahushua. See, but if you leave it to the Passion of the Christ, you leave it to all these other movies, man, there wasn't a black person in sight. Everybody was down in Africa, huh? See? Look at this Jake. He got the toga on and everything. Bronze statue of a boyish orator. Hellenistic Alexandrian, rather long, tightly curled hair, nose and lips, Negroid, but not extreme. Greek, Etruscan, and Roman bronzes acquired by the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. See? Look at this little Jake. Let's look at this. It says, a bronze statue of a boy, perhaps also an orator. So these are Jakes that had positions of speaking. See, an orator, Hellenistic, tightly curled, short hair, round face, neither lips nor nose extreme, some subnasal prognathism. See, they look at all the phenotypes to identify. Stomach somewhat protruding, 2nd or 1st century BC, discovered in 1963. Body run by fishermen diving for sponge. It's at the art treasuries of Turkey, circulated by the Smithsonian Institution, 1966 to 68. See? 1st, 2nd century, you seeing our people, man. Look at them. They love to depict the nakedness. Bronze statuettes of a boy, slender of proportions on a pedestal, found in Perugia, late Republican or early Imperial Rome. Hair curly, nose, and lips negroid. See, select bronzes Greek, Roman, and Etruscan in the Department of Antiquities at the British Museum. See, these are the type of things, man, that they do not want. They have it over there in Europe, man, in some of these museums, but you can't take pictures and you can't take the stuff up out of there, man. You understand? So there's a plethora of information, plethora of different pictures and archaeology in this book. Just wanted to give y'all a short little sample, man, of what's going on in here. And that way you can set out on your own journey to continually look for further information about the scattering of our people throughout the four corners of the earth, being prominently displayed in artwork and archaeology during the Roman and Greek era. It's your brother Motc, IQAhmath, first name IQ, it's all the same. Messengers of the Covenant, Library Chronicles. Again, this book is called Blacks in Antiquity by Frank M. Snowden, published by Harvard and Cambridge University. I implore brothers and sisters, man, go out there, get a little history, man, get a little more information on your people, all right? With that, I'm going to say shalom.